pandemic got us into a reflective space and made us look inward to see what we can do for the world at large. As a self-expression coach, I became a catalyst for women and started Vani, a one-on-one coaching program for women on finding their voice, to speak up, to be visible. As a storyteller, I spotted there were many ordinary people amongst us leading extraordinary lives, making a difference to the world, and they needed to be heard. Thus was born You and I with Rashmi Shetty, where amazing personal journeys with their uniqueness and individuality are showcased. A reaffirmation of the fact, open your eyes wider, the world is far more beautiful when we acknowledge the presence of both you and I. Learning Matters is a 7-year-old edtech organization based in Bengaluru. They implement the artificial intelligence-based solution Tara in schools and colleges to improve the communicative English proficiency of students and teachers. They were recognized by India AI and NASSCOM for their significant contribution to India's AI ecosystem by being included in their Compendium 75 at 75 that showcases 75 Indian companies doing innovative work using AI last year. Our guest today is Saraswathy Ramamoorthy, one of the co-founders of Learning Matters. An early childhood education expert, she has worked in various facets of the education domain as an educator and educationist. Her core expertise is in designing and developing educational curricula and programs, teaching children, training teachers, as well as creating digital education products and programs. As the co-founder of Learning Matters, she takes care of marketing. Listen in as Saraswathy shares what Learning Matters does. She explains the buzz around the 3rd edition of the Star Educator Award that they are hosting. To nominate yourself or anyone you know, click on the link given in the description. Hi Saraswathy, welcome to You and I with Rashmi Shetty.
Always so lovely and a pleasure to interact with you, and it's an honor to be invited back again for the second time by you, so thank you so much for that.
First and foremost, congratulations on 1 year, the anniversary of receiving this great honor of the company's 75 at 75 last year for the 75th Independence Day. So, yes, and what a celebration. A year has gone by and so much has changed. You got into the space before people started speaking about it, but now that you're in the space, what would you tell poor teachers who don't know whether the homework is done by the student or AI or Chat GPT has filled in the homework pages?
Yes, it's been a year since NASSCOM recognized Learning Matters for doing very relevant and meaningful work using AI and technology, and we're very thrilled to have made it on the NASSCOM 75 at 75. Absolutely, and I think that's a very real challenge that's affecting teachers and students right now as we speak. So, going back to your question of, what would I like to tell teachers? I think they have to take a very practical approach to this, right? All these tools are out there, ChatGPT, Proximity AI, or whatever all of those tools are. They're free, they're out there. Students of today have grown up with technology, right? They've learned to swipe before they've learned to speak, isn't it? And they know technology way better than the teachers. Okay, that is the fact. So instead of saying, do not use, and you will be penalized if you use, because there's also no way teachers can check, because a student may not necessarily get the entire homework done from ChatGPT or any of the other tools. They may be using parts of it. Okay, so how is a teacher to know? And if a teacher decides to start checking, that's going to add many hours of work to their already overloaded schedule. So I think what schools should do is to set guidelines on the use of such tools, right? And have a healthy dialogue and conversation with students right from the middle school grades, probably from, well, now even when they're coding at grade 5, right? So if they're coding at grade 5, have these conversations starting from grade 4 and 5, right? Tell them about what does it mean to do an assignment by yourself, right? What does yourself mean? How much assistance and support can you reasonably take from a tool? And maybe they can also build into the guidelines what the student has to do to show what assistance they've taken from a chat GPT or from a proximity AI or whatever that is, and don't penalize them for it, right? Instead, reward them for their honesty. Or maybe restructure the assignments. I mean, after all, we are educators, right? We need to be creative as well. Don't give the students assignments that they have to do at home. Simple, right? Make them do whatever they have to do in class where they don't have phones or the use of the laptop or whatever with them. Restructure it. Make them study at home like a flipped classroom. Make them come to the class and give them their assignments there. Change the way in which you're assessing your students, right? Let it not be a written thing which has to be done at home. Maybe use 10 minutes of your class time to make them work on a written assignment or assess them in other ways, right? So there are ways around this, but I think definitely the way is not to tell them that they cannot use it, because that's never going to happen, right? In fact, organizations now are encouraging employees, right? And this is a fact. They're encouraging employees to use ChatGPT, no matter what role you play, what vertical you are in the organization. You're being encouraged to use ChatGPT to increase your productivity, right? To get more done. So, what are we telling our students actually? The world is headed in a way where, in the working world, in the corporate world, you're encouraged to use such tools because it is widely acknowledged and agreed that it is a way to enhance your efficiency and productivity. But we're telling students don't do that. Isn't that conflicting messaging then? Right? So, we should be actually equipping our students, teaching them how to use these things meaningfully. Right. Now, the other thing, a small point I want to add here is, as someone who's been in the education field and a lot of time spent in creating written content for educators, both in my role in the United States as well as here in Learning Matters, the meaning of the word plagiarism, right? This is something that I, as a writer and as a creator of content, something that I was very aware of, right? What does it mean? What does it mean to plagiarize? What does it mean to be inspired by? And there's a vast difference between the two. Schools are telling students don't use ChatGPT, whatever, but I find that they're actually not taking the time to explain to students all about plagiarism. What does it mean? How can you avoid it, right? So don't just tell students don't copy, don't copy. They don't understand why. The student of today wants to know, why are you asking me not to do that, right? And if at home they're seeing their parents using ChatGPT, at work, because it's making them better at what they do, they're able to get more done, then won't the students wonder, why this dichotomy, right? So I think we have to, sort of embrace it and teach students how to use these tools productively. And as far as schools and teachers, they have to, I think, restructure how they assess students. If you think, don't give an assignment or a homework or an assessment that is to be done at home where they're not in front of you. Change it up. I mean, there are thousands of ways in which students can be assessed.
Yeah, that's so true. Embracing it, but restructuring what you have on hand to
To
use
restructure.
it as your aid rather than see it as a obstacle to progress, I think is the right attitude.
Yes, yes.
So maybe here I'll ask you to take a few steps back, Saraswati, and go back to education and you, because learning matters hugely plays a role in education today and has used ways and devised ways in which technology can be leveraged. So before your journey with learning matters began, what was the connection between education and you that when you left the United States and came back, it just fell into place way before AI captured the space?
Yeah. So I always been in education. I mean, I was one of those teenagers that knew I wanted to go into the teaching profession. It was sort of a very obvious calling for me, and I worked with very young children, creating educational programs. working with parents, and then eventually training younger teachers, younger student teachers to become teachers. What's the appropriate way of being a teacher? How do you structure your classroom environment? How do you create appropriate content and things like that? So that's always been something that I was passionate about, and I was good at it, and I absolutely loved it. With every cell in my body loved being a teacher and being around little ones. When I moved from the United States and came back to India, I initially worked with Pearson, at Pearson for about a year. I was with my very good friend from high school, so I've known her since grade 9, was also working in Pearson then, and we had a great connection. We found that we shared a lot of similar ethos about not just education, but more specifically about teachers and the sort of that very important role that teachers play in our educational system. Even today, with all of the technology, all of the AI and everything, when you go to school, you still have teachers there, right? And the teachers are still driving everything, and I'm quite sure they're going to drive it for many years to come, right? When you, not just in a school or a college setting, but even outside of that, when you go to a tuition, when you go to any kind of tutoring, it's still a human teacher there who is teaching you. So we realize that while the whole education system is such a vast educational system, especially in India, right? It is centered on the teacher. But how much regular support does that teacher get? The thing that I love to say is, teaching is the profession that teaches all other professions in that sense, right? So no matter, you could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be anything. You could be an artist, you could be a carpenter, you could choose plumbing as your trade. You were taught by someone, isn't it? So teaching is the profession that creates all other professions. And while we have such strict guidelines in most professions about how often you should be retrained, how often you should be upskilled, because every profession has updates that happen. That's a cyclical change that happens in all professions, right? There are new things that come into being, new rules, new guidelines, new perspectives or ways of thinking. So while all other professions require this, people in them, professionals, to be retrained or to get upskilled, or so that they leave sort of the older ways behind and move to the newer ways, shouldn't teachers be the first set of people for whom we do that, right? They're almost like our frontline, warriors, right? So that was something that resonated a lot between us. And when Gauri and Murthy and I started Learning Matters, we were very clear that it was going to be something related to teachers, because no one really does a lot for them. And so we said, okay, we're going to do that, and it's going to be mostly for those who don't have such opportunities. Tier 1 schools and teachers have plenty of things coming their way. Let's look at tier 2 perhaps, right? And let's see what we can do for them that allows them to become better teachers, allows them to become better educators. And that is how sort of the whole thing fell into place. With teachers currently at Learning Matters, there are two big things that we're doing, and our flagship solution right now, of course, is Tara, which is our AI powered spoken English trainer. It uses a blend of the Alexa platform, Amazon's Alexa platform, but along with physical books. And the student, or I should say the learner could be your adult teacher, or it could be your students. And there are separate courses for both. But these are live classes in which the learner goes through these lessons and various levels and courses to enhance their proficiency in spoken English. And so it's vocabulary, it's diction, it's pronunciation. Because if you think about it, why are you and I able to so effortlessly converse in English, right? Why aren't you? That's because you and I have grown up with the privilege and the opportunity of being exposed to very good models of English, right? I mean, you probably grew up listening to a fair amount of really good English. So did I. And so we're able to converse effortlessly. You drop us in the US or you drop us in anywhere, we're very confident in our English, right? But that's not the case when you go into tier 2, and definitely tier 3, tier 4. Even the teachers, even an English teacher, doesn't have a good model of English. So how can we expect them to pick up proficiency in a language, in the language, right? So that's what Tara does. Tara gives them that setting where it's a non-judgmental setting. There is no human teacher who is, watching you like a hawk or correcting you. So immediately the threat of being judged goes away. They're interacting with the echo dot, which is the device, and it's a conversational mode of learning. So they read from the book. Um, Tara, the teacher on the Alexa, will ask them questions. They answer, she listens, and then she corrects them. And so the lesson progresses that way. So they get to hear her speaking English, and then they get to speak and converse with us. So this modality of learning, because if you think about how humans learn any language, right? How did we all learn our mother tongue? Whatever the mother tongue may be, could be Kannada, could be Gujarati, could be Tamil, doesn't matter. We learned because we heard someone first. But the next step was we spoke, right? We spoke and someone spoke back to us, and so that game went on, and then it evolves, it becomes more complex, and that's how we learn, right? So that is exactly what we're providing to learners with Tara. We're providing them an opportunity to hear, we're providing them an opportunity to speak and to be corrected. So that's how it works, and that's how we are using technology and AI in what we do. And we realize that it's not enough if we are targeting just the students for this. We also have to target their models who are the teachers, which is why there are two courses on Tara, one for teachers and one for students.
If you can take us through this entire concept, Saraswati, when it comes to what is it that Learning Matters set out to achieve when you set out? You said that teachers were the key in any society, which gets every aspect and profession of society working. The main key, the fulcrum of it is the teacher,
Yes.
who is the main connector for
Yeah.
all the different pointers that we have as professions.
Yeah.
So when Learning Matters began, you said your focus would be teachers in tier 2, in tier 3 towns and cities, and that's where you're going to focus. But your idea was to help them enhance themselves. Was that how you began? That, okay, teachers now need to enhance their own education, learning, and their effectiveness? Was that the core idea with which you started Learning Matters?
Yes, very much. That was the idea. And so what we started off with was, if you are able to enhance the proficiency of a teacher, even a single teacher, see, a single teacher has multiple touch points with
Yeah,
multiple students
yeah,
year after year. So that
yeah.
teacher's touch point goes over generations, right? If you look at the teacher's effect on multiple students, then the students, each of them in their households, the impact is actually huge. So we wanted to enhance teachers' proficiency, their skill in being able to teach, no matter what they were teaching. We wanted to show them how they could become better at what they did, which would then directly have an impact on students and ultimately lead to students scoring better grades, right? And then being able to, and then students doing better for themselves, right? So if a student has very good teachers throughout his or her student life, the trajectory of that student's life is automatically going to change, right?
Correct.
The academic, from an academic sense as well as from the non-academic sense as well, that student is definitely going to do better in life. That automatically changes the sort of the life of that student's family now and the future generations of that student. So we started off with our Star teacher training program, which was exclusively meant at training teachers. So it's a good
And
old.
how did AI fall in there? Because you all come from a background of technology, so you're familiar. Alexa had just come in. So, do these teachers each have an equipment from where they do the training, or is it a common place where they have and the equipment, the Tara, plays out for the teachers? How is the whole modus operandi?
Yeah, so we provide them the Alexa. It's based on how many students are there in the school. The school, there are various models of Tara implementation that a school can choose. But based on how many grades of students and how many teachers they would like to enroll into the Tara program, they choose that many number of epo dots and books and so on. And then we train the teachers on how to use the epo dot, how to run the Tara program, and how do you assess your students, how do you support your students through this, and how do you yourself take your own Tara lessons, right? And that's how we train them. So it's a complete, comprehensive, and exhaustive training that we give them. We handhold them through that process until we're confident that they're able to independently implement it now. Schools also choose various models of this. Some of them want us to stay with them throughout the year. So we have our facilitators who actually physically are in the school and are there on a day-to-day basis. Some schools say, no, if you train us on how to do it, we can then run it ourselves. You just monitor us. And so we do that too.
How are the teachers chosen? Does the school give you the list of teachers who will be undergoing the training with you? And
Yes.
then
Yeah, because they know their teachers best, and depending on which grades of students they want doing the Tara program, automatically those grades English teachers will fall into this, as well as they may identify other teachers as well, maybe an academic coordinator or someone like that who is able to implement the program and sort of monitor the students' progress.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So this, as of now, currently focuses only on English as a subject, or now you have it for many subjects across different schools and all that?
Okay, so Tara focuses on spoken English proficiency, and here one quick point to notice: it doesn't focus on English as a subject, but on English as a skill. So, because when you look at English as a subject, what will happen is, see, we have so many different curricula in India, right? So each school is going to follow different, they're aligned with a different board. Automatically, they'll have different books. Now, even in ICSE itself, right? If you're CBSE, then you will have NCERT books. But if you're ICSE, then what do you do? Or if you can choose any publisher. So it becomes impossible to create courses, right? Because aligned to different books or curricula. So we decided, no, that's not the intent. The intent is to enhance English as a skill. What does that mean? In your day-to-day life, right? In day-to-day scenarios, how do we equip you with vocabulary skills, pronunciation, sentence construction, and plain and simple confidence to be able to carry out a conversation in correct English. So it focuses on English as a skill.
Wow. Okay. So this clarity, now, when you set out on this, did the schools immediately buy the idea of English as a skill?
Of course, because especially in tier two and onwards, they are very aware that one of the largest gaps that their students have is in English proficiency. You go to any tier two school, and between everyone at Learning Matters, everyone has visited so many tier two, tier three schools, and spoken to so many principals and school owners and correspondents. I can tell you, with absolute certainty that that is the area where they want, they feel, they get very emotional about the fact that, my students are so bright, so hardworking, so, ambitious. They're as good as the city kids, but English holds us back. If only my students could speak like the city kids, right? That's all I want, right? So they're not lacking in anything else. They're not lacking in intelligence, ambition, effort, and in fact they're more aspirational often than the city, right? They're more aspirational than tier one, but they don't know how to get their students to speak well. And they're very aware that in India, even now, even though we have a big push on the Indian languages, rightfully so, absolutely for that. I think we should all accept that at a certain level, in certain professions, and especially if you're going to be working in cities, given the multinational and sort of the global nature of many roles, you English is still the language of business. So, and they're very aware of that. So they are always looking for a very good way to enhance their students' proficiency, and they also want to enhance the teachers' proficiency. And that's something that parents want to, right? Parents are the first to notice when their children's English improves. It's the parents at home who first notice that. So they want it as much as the school, or probably more.
Okay, because you said you have two models, one for the teachers and one for the students. So the teacher model, the teacher is the touch point. So the teacher model is completely different as far as speaking skill goes, and for the students, the model is very different. How do you differentiate? Is it grade wise that this is what the student should be speaking, and that's
Hmm.
how you build it? How do you
Yeah. So
devise this entire?
Tara is not grade wise. Tara is all of the content on Tara. So different levels in Tara. There are different levels. These are mapped to a global standards for proficiency in languages called CEFR. That is the Common European Framework of References for Languages. So CEFR has levels that define proficiency in any language, from German to English to everything else. So it says, if you're an A1, it means that you have this proficiency, but if you're an A2, it means this B1, B2, and so on. So what we do is, it's not mapped by grade, it's mapped by these levels. And so you could potentially have a situation where in a Tara class, a particular Tara class, you could have a few students from grade 6, but you could have a few students from grade 8 or 9, okay, in the same class, because their levels of English proficiency are all similar. And so that is how when we do the pre-assessment, the pre-assessment tells us what level, on average, the students and the teachers are at, and then they are mapped to a Tara level.
So it is that the teacher and the student also have each other in the journey, or the student depends completely on the AI to help, and the teacher has her journey, which is completely different.
Yeah, the teachers have their separate course, which is in manner of implementation or how they do their lessons. It's very similar to how the students do their lessons, but the teachers' courses are different. But it's very similar in the topics that are dealt with, right? So if it's let's say out and about, going to a restaurant, or going to the market, or having a conversation with neighbors, there'll be very similar topics for both the teachers and the students, and the teachers typically start their Tara lessons ahead of the students. So by the time they're supporting the students in doing the teachers have done something similar already, and so now they're able to support the students in doing their lessons.
Okay, this really is very interesting. And any stories, Saraswati, around what exactly has been feedback which somebody who went through as a teacher, as a student, or saw the student progress, or themselves progress as teachers, where they gave a personal story?
We have multiple stories, and actually, our two teams that are sort of out and about in the field a lot, they are the ones who really have the best stories. A few that I remember are one of our schools in, I think it's one of the schools in the Nilgiris, where the mother, there was we do a Tara open day where the students at some interval, let's say after 6 months of being in the course, it's like a program with various competitions and events, all in English, and the students, practice for it, and then their parents are invited. So it's like a nice little event that everyone in the school participates in. And there was a mother who spoke up in Tamil at the end of the event, and she actually started crying. She was very tearful, saying that her child, who is going through the Tara class and is coming back home and speaking in English, she became very emotional, saying it's the first generation of their family to learn English and to be able to speak in it. And um, I thought that was very goosebumpy. And there was another incident where the child is, I think this might have been from one of our schools in Salem. And I think one of the fathers, when they were getting some feedback, the fathers relayed that now that the daughter is speaking English, when he has to go out of town, when he has to go out from, it's not really Salem, but outskirts, but he has to go to a larger city, he takes the daughter along with him because she can now communicate in English. And so he feels very proud that he can take her along to do that communication for him, things like that. And we have a principal from another school in Salem who um, shared with us so warmly that he's seeing a difference in his teachers, and he said, I can't blame them. They've grown up all their life. They all come from a farming, agricultural background, right? And but seeing the confidence that the teachers are now, have because of Tara, or even the students. He said at the beginning of the year when your team would come in from Bangalore, and the students are very aware. They know that someone has come from a big city. Maybe it's the way that we dress, or it's the way that we handle ourselves. Students always know. They always ask, where have you come from? They always ask us that because they know, these people are not from our town. And he said in the beginning the students would be very shy. They wouldn't speak up in front of your team. And now, having gone through the Tara program, your team comes, there are 4 5 of them observing, and the students don't care two hoots, right? They're so confident now, they're just jabbering away and speaking. So a lot of stories, but these are a few that immediately came to mind.
Okay. And the target schools in this are only government schools, semi-aided schools. What are the kind of schools you're looking at?
Any school, it can be any school. Typically, we work with a lot of private affordable schools as well. We work with a lot of government schools as well. Typically, the government schools come in, we partner with government schools through a larger organization who might be running their CSR through us, right? So, for example, we're very happy that we're working with the Microland Foundation. And so, Microland Foundation has partnered with us to implement Tara in many of the schools that they run in the Nilgiris area. So we do work with a lot of government schools. We work with a lot of private schools that have signed up with us of their own accord.
How old is Learning Matters, Saraswati? I forgot to ask you.
We are over 7 years old now.
Okay. And the impact, the number of students and teachers that you have impacted, if you can tell me a rough number, that's
So,
also.
yeah, I think collectively, I think Tara learners, including teachers and including several colleges as well, where Tata Technologies has been partnering with us to take Tara as well as one of our soft skills program to students in colleges across Karnataka and Maharashtra. So if you include all of the learners on Tara, I think we're well at the 50,000 mark and growing.
Okay, wow, wow. That's really, really beautiful. I'm sure when you set out on this journey, this was not what you were thinking. It was just that, okay, a small impact, or did you have an ambition of lakhs and lakhs of students is who we are going to impact?
That's definitely something that why would we not want that? Why
Yeah,
would we not
yeah,
have that ambition,
yeah.
right? But to get to a lakh, you have to start with 10, and the 10 has to
True.
become 100 and then 1,000. So you
Yeah.
have to progressively add the zeros to get to the lakhs and lakhs.
True.
So
True.
sort of plodding along, doing our work, and hoping to achieve those numbers. And yeah, I think this is a great platform for being able to spread the word of our work and our mission. And
Yeah, so
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, and now when you look back on these 7 years and the real hallmarks of each of those years, some of those huge moments, what have been those moments for you in these 7?
I think just the I would say just in milestones like hitting the 1,000 mark of para learners, looking at the scores when we do our post assessments, looking at the scores and how students have improved and their gains from where they were to where they are. I think those are the things that are being milestones for us. But it's also things like and here I'll just bring in our Star Educator Awards, because that's also something that has sort of grown in leagues year over year. So we decided to start doing something, run an annual awards program for teachers and institutions. And we started this 3 years ago. And come every July, August, we start gearing up for the Star Educator Awards, and it always sort of coincides and ends on Teachers' Day. That is our intention, and it's a completely free awards program. Anyone, anywhere can nominate an educator, themselves if they're an educator, someone else, it could be your colleague, it could be your principal, it could be your child's teacher or professor. It's not just schools, it's colleges too. Any type of educational institution can also be nominated. There are 12 categories. And when we started this, the intention was, I mean, it just seemed like, yeah, this is something we should do because we're all about teachers. We're all about equipping them. So why not now give them a platform in which they can, bring this much needed love, recognition, honor to those who deserve it. That was plain and simple. That's what it was. And we realized that um, tier two and onwards probably don't have a platform in which they can do this uh, free of charge, and it's completely it's sort of for the people, of the people, by the people, kind of thinking. So it's based on voting. So our nominees can spread the word, and we have students, teachers voting for their favorite teacher and all of that. So it's a way to involve sort of your whole community in the process, right? So if it's a principal, then the students get so excited, and the students and teachers are sort of spreading the word to vote for their principal to win, and things like that. So it sort of brings everyone together. But mainly, we realized, when you can have, the Oscars and the BAFTAs and the Golden Globes and all of that every year, I think we should start something like that for teachers, and it's that's all it is. I mean, and you and I, anyone can nominate, and it's worldwide. So we've had some over the 3 years. We've had very interesting winners who have won, from all different parts of India. We've had nominees from Sri Lanka, from Indonesia, because it's all spread on. It's there on social media. Within India, we also use WhatsApp a lot. So really, there's no restriction as long as you fit the bill of an educator. Of course, there are some guidelines that have to be followed, but really, it's to level the playing field in bringing recognition to deserving educators and educational institutions.
And especially now, when we talk about educators, there is the special education category. So, do you have something for special educators as well?
We do. One of the categories is all about those who are working in the special education category. It could be in any form or modality, because as we all know, there is a wide array of different needs, differently abled students, and so you naturally have educators who are trained in very different things. So we certainly have a category for that. We have a category for educators who are making a difference through physical education, because why ignore your PT sir or PT ma'am, right? You have some very phenomenal PE teachers out there who are really inculcating, the sort of goals of fitness and health, and making children fall in love with sports and games. So there's a category for them. And there are separate categories for every academic subject as well, because we realize that if we have only one or two, then the others will feel left out, right? So why is a social studies teacher any less than a science teacher? Or why is a language teacher any less than your English teacher, right? So we have a category for every single one of them. We have a category for school leaders, because very often there are communities in which your school principal or your school correspondent sort of is a champion, right, of change. They're driving so much positive change in their school and through the school in the community. So there's a category for them as well. There's a category for special educators, and so on. So
Yeah. So, is there a number of years stipulated for the person to be eligible to nominate himself or get nominated? As
yeah, we recommend that an educator should have been working for 2 years at least, and before they can be nominated. And of course, self nominations are as welcome as as any other type of nomination. So we just recommend that they should have been working in the education profession for at least 2 years.
okay, and education needn't necessarily be school alone. Any kind
No,
of education.
it can be any kind of education. Those who are, teachers in the vocational domain, or any of those as well. I think I recently happened to see, and Star Educator Awards are now, by the way, live and open. Nominations are open, and nominations are accepted only until August 27th. So anyone who wants to nominate themselves or others has to do it very quickly. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think a medical doctor who I think heads up some department. Maybe it was orthopedics or something like that. I think someone had nominated a doctor from Gujarat, and it was very nice to see that because, and I thought about it and I said, why not? I mean, this person is probably, as the head of the department, has trained generations of orthopedic doctors to go out there and do a great job. So he or she is a teacher too, right? So there really is no limit on what we mean by a teacher or an educator, and that's why it's called the Star Educator Awards. As long as you're an educator, and you're educating your learners, you can win an award.
So you can self-nominate, you can nominate anybody else you think who fits in the category. So all this will be very clearly given, and I'll share the guidelines as well as part of this podcast. And
Thank you.
is there anything else, Saraswati, that you want to tell us, especially with education and with educators in mind?
I think more about educators because having been an educator myself, both in India and I was a teacher for a while in Muscat, which is in Oman, as well as in the United States for many years. It's I just want to remind people that every day our children go off to schools, right, and spend a large part of their day there, right. We don't have visibility into that, right? Parents typically, because you don't go to your school and watch what's happening there. But teachers are, I think, one of the most underappreciated. It's one of the most underappreciated professions, according to me, because a lot of what teachers do is not visible to parents or to society in general, right? I mean, you see it in how your child is growing and learning, right? But more often than not, parents' expectations of teachers tend to be society's expectations of teachers, let's not say parents, tend to be unrealistic, tend to be very demanding, and tend to be always critical, right? Without realizing that a teacher actually dons several hats. An educator does so many different things in their job or their role, right? So if you look at, I mean, just me myself, right? I mean, I have two masters. I went to the United States to study. I was a teacher myself, but I did not teach my children how to read and write, right? There was a whole army of other teachers who did that for my children, right? So I think we really don't appreciate, or we don't appreciate as much the significance of what teachers do and their influence on children, their impact on children, right? The way the children are thinking, attitudes, beliefs, everything. So which is why we started Star Educator Awards in the first place, because we wanted to remind society and the world in general that pay more attention to what your teachers are doing, right? Give them that appreciation. Sometimes all it takes is just letting an educator know that you've observed what they've done and you appreciate what they've done for you, and you should see the look on their faces, and so that's all I would like to say, and that's the very premise of the Star Educator Awards.
True, very, very true, Saraswati. And congratulations once again on being in the 75 out of 75 companies and startups for the amazing, meaningful work that you do. We are in the Independence Day week, and it's the 76th year. It's a long journey. If you take an individual, 76 years is a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And you are now in this space for 7 years. So, in this week, when India is celebrating where she is there something that you want to tell society as far as teachers and educators are concerned? Maybe three things we should remember. Normally, I take life lessons, but because this episode is so special, it's not like the other episodes. And this week is extremely special for us. Three things that you'd like to tell us. to remember when it comes to education?
When it comes to educators, what I would love for people to remember is, I go back, and sort of repeat the point I made earlier, is we do not realize how much our educators are doing, because a lot of what they do is behind the scenes and not visible. So I think, it's like the iceberg. You see the tip and you assume it's only that much, but there's 100x of it underneath the surface of the water. That is how much our educators do. And I would like all of us to remember to stop and pause and first realize how much our educators do. Second is to be kind to them, right? More often than not, we're very ready to quickly criticize teachers or quickly look at what they've not done and ignore all that they have done. So I think as a society and as a global society as well, I think be kind is just something that everyone should practice doing, and I think we should definitely all be kind to our educators. Um, I think the third thing is we should remember that just like any other profession, you know, our educators too need support, right? No, in no profession will you find someone, solo just doing what they do, right? No matter what your profession is, no matter what your role is, you're always interacting with someone else, you're getting the support of someone else. And for our educators, how can we expect them to sort of upskill or uptrain, retrain themselves all on their own? It's not going to happen. They're already doing 100x, right? So I think you almost remembered and find ways to provide them these opportunities. Right? Teachers are the happiest when they get the right opportunities. Right? They also want to. Everyone wants to be better at what they do. Right? You, I, everyone. So that includes our educators. So to anyone from school management who's listening to this, I would just sort of request you to take a moment and consider the benefits that you will reap when you are able to enable your teachers and provide them an opportunity to upskill themselves and retrain themselves in the right way. I think those are the three things I'd like to um,
Yeah.
bring up.
Yes, and they make such a huge impact, especially with India being the youngest democracy. The youth are the ones, and the educators are the ones who are impacting them at the most
Exactly.
impressionable age of.
Most important, literally the future of India lies in the hands of our educators, right? I mean, it
Yes.
is not an exaggeration, it is a fact, right? It is a fact. So for that, what we need to do is to enable our educators,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's as easy as one plus one is two, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And such an important point to end this special episode on, to say that happy educators are a happy generation, and a happy generation is a happy country. And it all starts and ends there. The circle comes completely to a full when we know our educators are the ones who need to be the happiest. So, thank you so much. All the best for the awards that you're going to be hosting, and
So,
continue to thrive, Saraswati, with learning matters and all that you do for education and
thank
educators
you.
in particular. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much, Rashmi. Thank you for having me here again. And thank you for giving me this beautiful platform in which to talk about the Star Educator Awards, which is such a unique, you know, program out there for educators to be recognized. And I, request anyone listening to take a moment and go visit the Star Educators website. And, everyone has an impactful educator in their lives, right? It could be someone present, it could be someone in the past. It doesn't matter. Every single one of us knows at least two or three deserving educators who are going above and beyond to do something for their students. And I would request, if each one of us even nominated one person, imagine the happiness it would bring that educator. Not the winning, just the fact that someone nominated them for the work they do is an award by itself.
Yeah, that is so true. So, Saraswati, can you just give us the website ID where people listening in can just go in and nominate their educator?
Absolutely happy to. It's www learningmatters.ai/star-educator-awards. And I hope to see many people making use of this wonderful platform to bring recognition to deserving educators and educational institutions.
Yes, so before you forget, here is the website ID again, https:// learning matters, learningmatters.ai/star hyphen educator educator hyphen awards awards and slash. So this is the website that you need to go into. Put in your nominations for educators you think have made a difference, either to you or anybody you know, or an educator that you know, and make sure you bring a smile on. Thank you so very much, Saraswati, for all that you do. All the very best. And once again, pleasure hosting you on You and I with Rashmi Shetty.
Thank you so much, Rashmi.
With that, we come to the end of this weekly quest of You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Do let us know if you know people who make the world beautiful. Write in to rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com. That is rashmi.thirdeye@gmail.com. Come, let's explore this amazing world together, both you and I.